Welcome to the FPL Double Up. I'm joined again today by FPL Heisenberg, and we're accompanied by two big fat red arrows. Wes, how are we feeling? We were all optimistic going in.
Yeah, I was definitely optimistic. I remember looking at my team last week and thinking three City against Leicester, an Arsenal player against Forest, blah blah blah. My whole team on paper looked good, and just got shafted as
Yeah,
usual, and a big red for me. I think you said 59 points to me off air for you, John. I think I got 54. I'm just going to check that now.
yeah.
Um,
I got 59
yeah,
and you got
54.
54. You're literally half my rank overall now. You're 550k odd and I'm 1.1. I was
Yeah,
what?
which
Go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're both not in a position where we want to be in. However, I am still optimistic of second half of the season, all chips intact, double game weeks. A lot of people in the top, 500k would have blown a lot of their bench boost, triple captains, and stuff like that to get there. So it's kind of a false representation in a way, but yeah, still not ideal. And we really need to kick on now, John. Both of us.
I'm so dejected because I said this yesterday to Abdul, and I generally say things about three times a week now with Ichi as you, Abdul, and Bakar, but like, I really didn't think I was having that bad a week. Like,
Yeah, same.
I got four clean sheets, Pope and Trippier, so there's 17
Yeah,
points between them. Cancelo and Guehi, I thought Guehi, brilliant, nice wee clean sheet from a sub 5% owned player. Zaha, Foden, whatever, but I kind of thought everyone kind of has them.
yeah,
Martinelli, Saka only got 4 points. I know Jesus got
yeah.
nine, maybe, which was a bit of a killer, but like Salah captain in the end with 14
Yeah,
points.
same for me. I thought I was
Everyone has
dodging.
Mitrovic.
Yeah, I've felt the same because I felt like I was doing all right dodging some players. Like when Kane blanked, I was happy because I knew that a lot of people would have him captain with Haaland out. With Foden only getting 4 points, I was like, okay, fine, take that. And there's a few other examples of thinking, some clean sheets got wiped out that I was happy with. Chelsea got battered. I don't have any Chelsea players, but yeah, still, I think what I was kind of celebrating highly owned players who I don't have blanking like Kane, but not realizing that still a shitload of people have players like Jesus, the Arsenal defence. And I was celebrating other people blanking, but I still had loads of blanking players in my own team as well. I had Mitrovic blanking, I had yellow cards left, right, and centre. Tony getting suspended, Foden with a one pointer. So although other players blanked, my players also blanked. And yeah, so just a
Yeah,
nightmare week, mate.
I've got your team up here, 54 points. Yeah, Dyer there with a one pointer as well wasn't lovely.
Uh,
But
yeah.
54
The
points in a
annoying thing
game week
with
rank of over 7 million. Like,
Yeah, it's awful. I think the thing with especially with Dyer, I get him for the security of starts. I know he's a boring pick. I know there's other players more exciting, but then obviously he gets rested with that big Champions League game that they played last night in mind. Um, and yeah, that game week rank's just awful, isn't it? 7 million, like you just said. So yeah, but can't dwell on it. My team again looks okay on paper this week. Don't think I'm going to be taking any rash decisions. The thing is, like, how do you actually fix it? Do you go ahead and take a load of minus points and make things worse? Could say, I've got Tony suspended and I've made a move early this week and uh, there's not going to be many prizes for guessing who I've gone with. But do I take a -4, for example, Zaha to Rashford? Would that work out?
yeah,
Maybe. Rashford's on form, but it could backfire as well. So sometimes the best way to fix things is actually not doing that much to your team. Or is that too passive? I don't know yet. I haven't decided.
well, we get on to that with a talking point around taking hits. An interesting observation I've had here is you have 808 total points, right? With my 59 pointer, I have 786 points, so I'm 22 points behind you, which tells me exactly what would have happened had I captained Haaland that week that I captained Tony. I would have got a bonus, what was it, 23 points or something. So I would have literally been hugging you. I would have been up around the 550k mark.
Yeah.
So that's literally, that decision cost me 500,000 places for
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
which is
It's
madness.
it's fine margins at the minute, isn't it? Like, probably similar for me. Maybe one decision I made on a transfer in or something like that. Bowen missing a penalty for me would have probably rocketed me up to somewhere. I don't know where, but yeah, it's very fine margins. I think it's still fairly congested. There's some stats out there about how many points you will be off. We're at our rank to get into like the top 100k or whatever. I don't think it's that bad. So it's not all doom and gloom. And I remember from previous seasons being in a similar position and just sort of second half the season just green, 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 and then all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
top 50k. So it can be done, and I'm
I
confident in
just
both of us, John.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need this G up because I'm a bit dejected. I kind of thought 59 points was fair. I didn't expect to
Mm.
go from like, because I'd kind of been down around here and then I got to 950 and up to 850 and I was like, keep chipping away. I could be up around sort of 700k maybe by the break. And then I got whap, slam, bam, 59 points, 200k off my rank. It's just like,
Yeah,
what are we at? Anyway, we've talked on points. The first one I want to ask you about is those hits. You were debating, and sometimes the best thing you can do is do nothing. There isn't a
yeah,
lot of time left before we all get a free hit. We all get another wild card for unlimited transfers for the World Cup.
yeah.
Um, so, quite often when people take hits, they think, well, this will pay off over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. It makes sense to do it now
Exactly.
because it will pay off. Is it a much
Yeah.
riskier proposition taking hits now?
I think it is, yeah. Like I said, with my team that was on screen a minute ago, you look at someone like Zaha there, who, people are getting a bit overexcited about how, and myself included, we're all getting annoyed with him. But if you look at his returns over the last 4 or 5, there is still an assist in there. There still is a goal in there. It's not amazing, I know, but for a mid-price midfielder, it's not the doom and gloom that everyone's suggesting. Now, do you take the minus to make it worth? Like I just said that example a minute ago, or someone like Almiron. Zaha to Almiron / Rashford for a -4. Does that get paid back straight away? I just think I always think about the double jeopardy thing. So if you take that, if the reverse happens and Zaha finds some form in these weeks and scores a few goals or whatever, and Rashford blanks in a couple, you've taken the minus, which sucks, and then you've lost out on the points, which sucks. So I don't know. It's tricky. I think generally speaking, I'm sort of anti-minus hits unless they are really necessary. In a blank game week, I was very much for minus hits. I was very aggressive because you might as well you're only risking 2 points, blah, 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 and the upside. But yeah, right now, I think if Zaha gets injured in training this week, breaks his leg or whatever, then yeah, easy -4 to make that change. But if he doesn't, his two fixtures aren't the worst in the world either.
Mm.
I just don't know. I can't see it, over those 2 game weeks. Let's say Rashford, he'd have to at least score one more goal than Zaha just to sort of break even. So you're not even getting that much out of it. I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. What do you think,
Yeah.
John?
I don't know. It gets tricky. I think with the likes of a Zaha as well. There was a reason we all brought him in, and it's for these fixtures. West Ham, whatever,
Yeah.
not the easiest in the world, but Forest
Fabianski injured.
and that's even better. Like, and they could score. They
Yeah.
could do well against West Ham. But Forest as well. Like, I think it's one of those where, as you say, the upside and who you're moving to. I think a big part of people wanting rid of Zaha is because some other options are doing so well. So like we may as well. This was something else we were going to talk about, just kind of midfield replacements for these guys. The thing is, like, everyone wants Almiron because he's banging in double-digit holes for fun. Everyone wants him. Good fixtures as well. Let's get Almiron in. Who's he got this week again? I know he's Southampton, a good fixture than Chelsea, but I mean Newcastle could do anything to Chelsea at the minute.
Yeah.
So everyone wants Almiron. Trossard's doing brilliant, getting goals against the biggest sides out there. Now he's a couple of okay fixtures. People want Trossard, and I think it's more a reflection. It's less a reflection of how bad Zaha is or isn't doing. It's more a reflection of how well people you can easily pivot to are doing. And
Yeah.
people, it's all that recency bias. People are looking at the recent returns of these players and they're going, therefore, the next 2 weeks this will happen as well. Whereas quite easily we could have a couple. And I don't know. I know the data maybe suggests otherwise. I'm just saying, like, in terms of variance in the game and what happens, there is a chance that in the next couple of weeks Almiron
Yeah.
does nothing and Zaha gets a hat trick.
That's the thing. I think what we're saying is if we could have unlimited transfers this week, or if we was both on a wild card, then obviously Zaha wouldn't be in it, and the likes of
Yeah.
Almiron, Rashford, Trossard, those sort of players are higher up on our list. But we don't have a wild card, so you can't. Otherwise, you could always make justifications every single week to take multiple hits, couldn't you? Because you could always try and make
Yeah.
your team perfect. And I don't think that's the way to play. I think it is about, you pick your players, you tweak them here and there. But if they are still good assets, Zaha was millimeters away from an assist at the weekend. If Edouard just connects with that, I don't know if you saw the highlights. Edouard should have scored a tap in basically. And then you're looking at maybe a 5 or 6 pointer for Zaha, and all of a sudden it's not too bad. So yeah, it's difficult. I think, to summarise, we're saying these players that we're discussing are better picks than Zaha right now.
Yeah,
But is it worth using him a transfer or minus
exactly. If you're on a free hit, but you're not. If you're on a wild card, which you're probably not, but might be, shouldn't be, but might be. Like,
Yeah,
I get it. Like, would you pick Zaha? No, you pick Almiron, you pick Trossard, you pick Rashford. Absolutely,
yeah,
they're better picks. But the question we're debating is it worth a -4? And I
yeah.
know, like me, maybe going Zaha could get a hat trick and Almiron could blank is kind of a load of bollocks, really, and means nothing. But my point kind of is, it's like you really, when you look at it in the face of it and the fixtures that we have at hand and the players and the caliber of them, I don't think Zaha is that much worse a pick. I won't be taking a -4 to go Zaha to Trossard or
No,
Zaha to Rashford. But
I
that
don't think
said,
I will
I
either.
I do have, and we'll get to this when we look at like kind of our team reveals a bit later. I do actually have a free transfer, and I have a decision, and I could be getting another midfielder in, and then the decision becomes who do you get rid of? And to be honest, Zaha could actually be the guy. So I might
Yeah,
go Zaha to one of those, but would I do it for a -4? Probably not.
yeah,
But I just wanted to talk about hits. Look, outside the likes of I suppose the Trossard, the Rashford, and the Almiron, they're the kind of the big three to hit this week in midfield if you're making a transfer, if it needs done.
yeah.
Is there anyone else you'd like to mention in that bracket?
I don't think so. I think it would just be mentioned for the sake of it. They are the best
Yeah,
options to go for. I think if you are, a lot of us will have the Pope and Trippier double up, and therefore, if we can only therefore pick one of Almiron or Wilson. So again, a bit of a spoiler alert for my team, but like I said, it's pretty obvious. With the Tony suspension for me, I have brought in Callum Wilson and therefore locked myself out of
so have
Almiron.
I. Have you already done it?
Yeah, with
We didn't even
the
talk about
price.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, no, we didn't. The price, the transfers, because he was suspended, the transfers were going crazy either way, and I decided to do it. And actually, I've got a good point to make on why I moved early. Sometimes I'll wait till the weekend to play it safe, but with this one, if Tony, let's say Tony had an injury doubt, but he may or may not play in a good fixture against Forest, then I'm more on the fence. I'm going to wait for that information because if Tony's fit, then I obviously just maybe play Tony in that easy fixture. We know Tony's definitely banned. We know there's only 2 game weeks left, and Tony comes back in with Man City away, I think it is. So Tony as an asset, I definitely want to get rid. That's not going to change with any news. Tony out is definitely happening to my team. And the option for me, price wise, was Callum Wilson was a standout option, and he doesn't have European football. So the only real gamble for me was an injury in training. Now you could say my other players have got European games; they could get injured. But if that happens, I'm still going to have to do the Tony to Wilson move
yeah.
as part of my transfers anyway. So Tony to Wilson was always going to happen this week, whether I do it on Saturday night, Sunday, Friday morning, whatever. So why not do it early? And so far, I've saved myself 0.3, I think, because Tony has gone down once and Wilson's gone up twice, I think. So moving early is saved not just 0.1, 0.3. So it's a lot of money. So yeah,
I
does that make sense?
was. It does, yeah. I was in Hamburg over the weekend and kind of a bit distance from it, and I'm so ingrained in me make the transfers late. But I kind of got
Yeah.
home, and I think it might have been Monday. I can't remember when I made the transfer. I think it was Monday. I looked at it and I was like, "Hold up a second, why am I waiting?" For all the reasons you've just said, I was like, "Why am I waiting?"
Yeah.
I've already probably missed one price rise and one price drop. I was like, "This is going to keep going all week. This is just going to keep
Yeah.
going." So I pulled the trigger, Tony to Wilson. Because the other side, I think, with that is, while I normally like information, when it's a suspension Man City fixture, as you say, it's done and dusted. There's nothing to wait on.
Yeah.
Wilson is the only risk there. And the other side is, like, even if it didn't pay off, and even if Wilson did get injured, you're almost buying value for the sake of, like, and it's only 2 weeks worth of
Yeah.
points you might lose out on. I don't know. It just felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think I agree with you say. There's no point in really mentioning anyone else in midfield. We'd be mentioning them for the sake of mentioning them. But just in terms of a frustrating player that people might be thinking of getting rid of, I probably wouldn't, but I'd be looking tonight in the Champions League. Phil Foden,
Mm,
played every game, benched twice in a row, less than 30 minutes, 2 games in a row. What's going on? You'd expect him to be
yeah.
playing, but can we trust anything? You know that he's going to go and get 90 minutes tonight. And then it's going to be, do you know, I'm just predicting he's going to get 90 minutes tonight, and we're going to be like, what on earth's happening at the weekend, Pep?
Yeah, we need to monitor that. It's been really frustrating because with Foden, again, this might be a bit of a long spiel, but when I brought him in for this game which just gone, and I analysed the minutes, right? So I looked at when there was the midweek Premier League fixtures, apart from when City and Arsenal blanked, and Arsenal played in the Europa. So all the other 19 Premier League teams all played midweek. City had the midweek off. Pep then rested Foden in that very next game at the weekend after the midweek fixtures. So he only got 30 minutes there. Okay, that's good for me because that means he's going to have 90 minutes the next game, right? He then plays Champions League and again gets subs quite well. One of City's first subs off in the 80th minute. Again, saving him for the weekend against Leicester. That all indicates that to me. And then he gets benched versus Leicester as well. So it can't be a rest. Foden doesn't need his minutes managed resting wise, unless there's some sort of underlying injury worry or whatever. Or my theory is that maybe he's scoring goals for City, but maybe Pep's not happy with certain elements of his game or something. But yeah, I can't believe he didn't start against Leicester because his minutes have been managed a lot in recent weeks. Like I said, City blanked. He then got benched. He then only got 80 versus. I know it's 80, but my point is he could have subbed off anyone at that point. He chose to sub off Foden. So yeah, I'm gobsmacked. I guess they've got a lot of options there. They've got Grealish, Bernardo can play there, or in midfield, can't he? So there's options there. We know what Pep can do, but especially with Haaland out as well, John, because Haaland is obviously their biggest goal threat. Foden's their second biggest goal threat. You can maybe argue Alvarez, but why would you drop your other goal scorer? Your best goal scorer is injured. Play Foden, surely.
I know, and it's so frustrating because, like, again, there's another thing this season that's kind of went against me anyway, and a lot of people, to be fair. You bring in Foden, and then the Rashfords and the Trossards and the Almirons go off. You know, same with
even
Zaha,
De Bruyne as well.
Same with Tony, same with De Bruyne instead of Salah. It's just like,
yeah.
Oh, if I could go back. But yeah, Foden, it is what it is. I don't think I can get rid of him. I don't think it makes sense to get rid of him. But if he goes and gets 90 minutes or even 70 plus tonight, it's one of those where it's like you're just going to be doubting him at the weekend. And then if you're doubting him, he's probably going to start anyway. So you just have to wait.
It's so hard to call. Like, even the logic I use just fell flat on its face just for my transfer in last week. And then if he plays 90, he could play back-to-back 90s, or he could get rested tonight and we all think that's good and he not play again. Maybe he hasn't been rested, he's been dropped. It's so strange in my opinion. That's why in hindsight, I feel quite lucky actually because I was basically debating between Saka and Foden in the last few weeks, as a lot of us were. Decided to go for Foden for the better fixtures. But with Saka, what you get, I feel bad for Saka owners actually because they've got unlucky he got injured because he is their star player. He plays week in, week out. And Arteta just hangs his hat on him. You don't quite have that with Foden. As good as Foden is, Foden's better than Saka in my opinion. They're both amazing. Foden's better, but Pep's almost just we can win without him. Let's just bench him.
Do you think? I don't know. And again, this is me proper conspiracy theory, and it's bollocks, Wes, and just tell me it is. The World Cup's coming. Foden wants it more than anything to be there for England, and he doesn't want to be risked in games that he isn't needed in. Whenever there's people probably like Mahrez and whoever are chomping at the bit to get, I don't know, maybe that's a bit stupid because you're still going to want to be match fit and your manager's still going to play if he needs you, so maybe that's just me clutching because I don't get why he'd be rotated like this.
I don't get it either. It does raise a bigger point actually, John, that's interesting I wonder what is going to happen in Gameweek 16. I think I've read, obviously it doesn't apply to FPL, but I think I've heard that Messi wants to be rested for PSG's last league game or something before the World Cup. And I wonder if that's going to spill over into the Premier League players, not wanting to get that injury just before the World Cup because there's not that big of a gap, is there? So I do wonder what will happen in Game Week 16 with some players wanting to do that. But I just think to argue against your last point, what would Pep pander to this?
I know,
England narrative.
He wouldn't.
I feel if Pep wants to win games, doesn't he? But yeah, go on.
We've mentioned Callum Wilson for Ivan Toney.
Yeah.
Mitrovic isn't really doing the business recently. I say that it's more a fixture problem, but he's shown that he had he blanked this week. He got a few goals before that in a row, but it's the two Manchester teams in a row now before the break. So if people don't have Toney, maybe they already have Wilson. They might have Haaland and Mitrovic there. They might be looking at Mitrovic going, do I want to keep him for the two Manchester games or ship him out? There's also Haaland, obviously, who isn't 100% confirmed. It'd be interesting to see if anything comes out based off tonight's game and later in the week in the pressers and blah, blah, blah. My point is, regardless of Toney, the switch direct to Wilson makes so much sense. And Wilson is kind of the guy this week, I think, on everyone's watch list. But is there any other forwards you'd be even thinking about? Or
so if you are locked out of Wilson because maybe obviously we've got that different triple up, so we're locked out of Almiron, but other people would have got Almiron, Trippier and Pope and be locked out of Wilson. That's fine. It happens. So I think in that instance you're looking at Calvert-Lewin because I think you maybe I think we highlighted him as a differential last week, John,
We
and
did.
also he's played. He's got one goal in the last three games. That's an average. That's a mediocre return. But he's more importantly for me, he's actually started all three games in a row, played like 75 plus minutes in all of them. So he's getting his fitness back. He scored an offside goal at the weekend as well, which again, it's offside. It doesn't mean anything, but he put the ball in the back of the net. Um, and yeah, it's just mainly because of the fixtures. I much prefer Callum Wilson. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying as an alternative to Callum
Yeah.
Wilson, the only two alternatives I see is maybe Solanke as well. Bournemouth's fixtures are okay. I don't want to, I think Kiefer Moore would be a real bandwagon sort of trap. But you can't even write, two goals, confidence, probably going to start the next two. Who knows? But yeah, for me, if I was to look elsewhere other than Wilson, if I couldn't get Wilson for whatever reason, it would be a punt on Calvert-Lewin. And the reason why I don't mind, like, if it wasn't these unlimited transfers, I'd be thinking, I don't want to risk it on Calvert-Lewin. I'm probably going to have to transfer him out soon, blah, blah, blah. But it's only a two. You're only tied into this player for 2 weeks now. So whoever we bring in now, it's a 2 week punt. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. You refresh in game week 17. So there's less fear, I'd say, about tying yourself into a risky player.
Haaland goes red flag out until Boxing Day. Whatever. Julian Alvarez.
Ooh, yeah,
But it's not
exciting.
going to happen, really, is it? I think it's a hard one because, like, Haaland's going to be a maybe not. And then because
It
he's
is
a maybe
difficult.
not, it won't make sense to get rid of him
Yeah,
in case he is actually on and the value we've tied up and all the rest. But even, I don't
yeah.
know, aside from
It,
Haaland,
it's interesting though. It would be good to get a one way or another. Like he's fit, he's back in training, or he's going to miss out until after the World Cup. But I wouldn't be scared to. A lot of people overestimate the value tied up in him, in my opinion,
it's me. I
because
keep overestimating it. And then people like you
I
and
think
Abdul Yassi keep saying he'll drop in value if he's confirmed out. And then,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think he dropped overnight, so he's down to 12.1. You would have bought him for 11.5. My purchase price for Haaland is actually 12.1 now because I went for the strategy of removing him for the blank game week to get Kane. I've since pivoted to Salah, which worked out okay last week. But my point is, I then, like I said, I sold him for 11.8 and I bought him back for 12.1. Okay, I've got 0.3 less in my bank balance. I can cope with that. Maybe at some point down the line it screws me over a little bit, but right now I'm feeling there's a lot of budget enablers doing well. Trippier is obviously really cheap and probably a season keeper. Likewise, maybe Callum Wilson if he can stay fit, keep him. There's loads of cheap assets. Is what I'm trying to get at. We've just listed a load of midfielders, John, that we like, who are all really cheap. Andreas Pereira doing amazingly. So yeah, I just don't have any. I think if you can prioritize points and if he is out for 2 game weeks, why not jump off him for a Harry Kane, for an Alvarez, for whoever, and then just bring him back in for like you said, Abdul said he's going to go down in price anyway. So yeah, maybe you have to buy him back for maybe 0.2 more. Not as big of a. It's not ideal. Like I'd rather have not had to do what I've done, but the strategy made sense for my team, so I went for it. If that makes sense.
no, I hear you. I hear you. Okay, so let's go and have a look at a couple of the differentials we picked out. Let me just get it up on the screen. So here we go. The three we actually picked for this week, one we just mentioned was Julian Alvarez, 1.2% ownership, 6 million, and that is very dependent on Haaland news. But I think like if Haaland news comes in, and again these are differentials, they're not optimal picks. Picking young Julian up
Yeah.
to keep him for a wee week, see what happens. If you're looking to
Yeah.
get rid of your Mitrovic or you're looking to get rid of your Tony and you already have a Wilson or whatever, maybe.
And John, like I said, it's in a normal season, I'd be saying don't get, Alvarez, Haaland will be back soon. You'll have to use up multiple transfers, but it's only a 2 game week punt. It's two home fixtures, two easy home fixtures. That even with Haaland, maybe Pep would have played both of them, like he occasionally does. Maybe Alvarez gets, if Haaland does come back fit, maybe Alvarez gets half an hour off the bench and can do damage in those easy fixtures anyway. So it's really not the worst shout in the world. And like I said, you're not tied into it for a long period of time. So yeah, I like that as an option for sure.
So Alvarez is number one. Number two, we have on the left here Luke Shaw, 1.3% ownership, 4.7 million. Obviously, everyone's going Diogo Dalot. He's over 10% owned now, I believe.
Yeah.
So initially, whenever we were talking about this, I said about Lissandro Martinez because he's just 4.5 million, and I was just
Yeah,
looking at him and I seen clean sheet, whatever, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay, for 4.5 million, that's not bad. And then you mentioned, well, Shaw, for that attacking output, he's putting in the crosses, and he's just 4.7. I just didn't even look at Shaw because I assumed he was higher owned than this. I was shocked by 1.3%.
yeah. And with Shaw, he's kind of been in our bad books from an FPL point of view for a long while now. We kind of label him as a troll or whatever, or someone to avoid. But yeah, when you start analysing it, you actually think players like Dallo was always sort of villainised, weren't they? But now United are playing much better, keeping clean sheets. And yeah, Luke Shaw as a differential to Dallo. He got the assist in the away at Chelsea, really nice cross. And again, when you watch the United games, he gets into those really good crossing positions, sort of. I can't describe it, but good crossing positions. He crossed one into Ronaldo, and Ronaldo just fluffed the header. But if Ronaldo's going to keep playing as well, that's perfect for Luke Shaw because I can really see him crossing the ball in for a Ronaldo header. Rashford's heading's got much, Rashford's all of a sudden added that element to his game, heading, scoring headers. So again, that's only good news for someone who can cross the ball like Luke Shaw.
And our last differential, less than 2% ownership, 1.9%, 5.6 million. It's a Wobie.
Oh, it's a Wobie, is it? I thought we spoke about St. Maximum off there.
We did. I don't know. Iwobi's on the. We've got four then, so Iwobi's there. I threw St. Maximin in the ring.
Let's talk about them both. I think that was just brainstorming actually. So yeah, but yeah, let's talk about both of them because I think they are both decent options. With the trouble with St. Maximin is like we're pretty much all tied into three Newcastle now, and if we're not, you're going to get probably Almiron or Wilson. So it's going to be hard to manoeuvre to him. I don't know. Maybe you haven't, people out there might not have hope to be fair or whatever, but
Yeah.
with Newcastle playing so well, I think he's a great shout, and he can be sort of explosive. Full disclosure, Almiron's a better pick, of course, but it's just that explosive. You don't know what you're getting from St. Maximum. Are you going to get a completely terrible performance, or are you going to get something out of this world which he can deliver? And Iwobi is another great shout as well. Everton's fixtures are amazing, and he's a bit like Xhaka this year, moved into a central midfield position, moved into that attack number 8 position is what it's called, isn't it? And Iwobi and Xhaka have probably been the best number 8s in the league from an attacking point of view. And yeah, Iwobi, fixtures, assists, playing with confidence. Scored a really nice goal from distance, didn't he, recently, and like a back heel assist and all sorts. So yeah, I'm all for these as differentials, John.
Yeah, so with the three on the screen, then St. Maximin, the wee outside shirt as well. I think he's 3.4% owned when I had a look there. He only got 4 minutes last weekend, but maybe that means he might get 30 this week, and then maybe he'll get the start, whatever. Newcastle are playing amazing. Maybe I won't want to change things up too much, but St. Maximin, we know what he's like, and slapping him back into that Newcastle team's going to be dynamite, so it's just a case of a race against time. But there are differentials for the week. Will we have a look at how the double up went last week? So first off, I suppose I better explain the rules to people who don't have a clue what we're on about. So we're playing a game through the season where basically we both pick 2 players each week. The FPL double up is the name of this podcast. So we pick a double up of players from a team. They have to have a combined ownership of less than 1% in the top 10k players. You can't use the same team twice in consecutive weeks, so I can't just go Man City, Man City, Man City. And the loser at the end of the season is going to shave off their beautiful beard. Neither of us want to do that. Kind of heartbroken, really. A couple of unspoken rules. One is that we won't pick 2 players worth more than 10 million. That's kind of, we won't do that, so we won't go for like a Haaland and De Bruyne. A lot of people won't have that double up necessarily, so the ownership could be quite low. And then the other one is that the loser picks first the next week. So let's have a look at the results last week. I went ballsy. I said it was ballsy at the time. Unfortunately, Anthony didn't play after his spinning malarkey. I think he was told, enough of that, lad. Sit in the bench for a game. Didn't even come off the bench. So 0 points there. Bruno Fernandes with a 2-pointer. Absolute nightmare. 2 points from 2 players. As bad as it could have been. And I think I'm very, very lucky that you only scored 7 points because it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I think without the Saka injury, seeing as the goals came down his side, like I was saying earlier, I felt sorry for Saka owners. Like I'm delighted from my own point of view because I don't have Saka, but yeah, he would have probably got a haul. And then even Xhaka in a 5-goal game, with the way his season's going, you'd have expected maybe a little return there. But yeah, I guess I'll take the minor victory and move on.
Yeah, so that puts you on you're ahead now, 65 points so far this season in the game. I've got 64 points in this game. Let
Oh,
us know
very
your
close.
let us know your double up for this week below, everyone. Like the video while you're here for us, just a big favor with that, and subscribe to the channel. Now, because I lost this week, I got 2 points, you got 7. I got to pick first, so I'll pull my double up on the screen now.
This
I've
week's good.
went. Yeah, this week's going to be high scoring for one of us. Hopefully both of us, and hopefully I just put.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually no. Hopefully you get 1 point and I get 40 million. But like Wilson and Almiron, I'm going for like the biggest transferred in combination. I don't know
Yeah.
how much. I couldn't believe that the combined ownership in the top 10k was actually below the 1%. Now that
Yeah.
mightn't be the case now.
They won't be next
Definitely won't
week.
be the case
Yeah.
next week. So
Yeah.
it's about okay, well the sun shines. Wilson,
Yeah.
obviously, get him in my basket. Almiron too. They are up against Southampton, which is just an incredible fixture. And I thought I'd pick the best double up, and then you sent yours in, and now I'm a wee bit worried.
Yeah. Mine was, I felt a bit dirty doing it. I feel like I've bent the rules maybe, but technically it just about counts. So yeah, obviously Alvarez and De
Yeah.
Bruyne there. I could be, obviously if Haaland is fit, I could be in the mud a little bit there, but I'd have to just probably rely on some sub points from Alvarez and hope for the best for De Bruyne, who could carry me on his own. Again, I hope not from an FPL point of view because I don't have De Bruyne. But for this game, I at least if De Bruyne does score, then I'll be happy for this game.
What I'm legitimately hoping happens here, and I think there's an outside weird chance because it's Pep, is that it's Fulham, Champions League, heavy legs, whatever else. De Bruyne gets a surprise rest.
Yeah,
Haaland's back, and Alvarez
yeah,
doesn't play either. And all of a sudden, one
yeah,
point off a bench could be great here. Anyway,
yeah,
I know my guys are both starting. I know my guys are both playing.
yeah.
You're risky here.
You never know. You never know with Pep. Like we complained about earlier with Foden, he can just do whatever he wants at any point. The ridiculous man that he is.
Exactly. So, look, there are two double ups. We'll have to see how we get on this week. I'm going to pull my team up on the screen now on the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub. This is my team. Now, I have already switched Tony, and we're looking at our reveals now for next week, Wes, just in case I caught you off guard. I've
Yeah,
already brought in Wilson, which leaves me with 0.8 in the bank. And I've got another transfer in the bank, so I don't really know what to be at because, my team this week is Pope, Trippier, Cancelo, Guehi, Zaha, Foden, Martinelli, Salah, Andreas, Mitrovic, and Wilson. Now, I've read it out that way. Obviously, Andreas would be on the bench for Haaland, assuming he's fit, and I'd probably
yeah,
even take Castagna in for Mitrovic. Maybe that's mad. Castagna against Everton, I kind of like a bit more than Mitrovic against City, but City, I don't know. City could concede. And if I have Mitrovic, at least then I'm protected in a sense or hedging against Cancelo conceding. But
yeah,
anyway, my point is, this is kind of what I'm looking at, but I do have just shy of £1 million in the bank and another free transfer, so I'm going to leave it a bit later in the week. But this kind of comes back to the point of, like, I could go Mitrovic out, bring in a wee punty Julian Alvarez. I could go Andreas out and bring in someone maybe. I don't think I'd have enough bank there to get anyone worth going to. And then it's like, do I bother keeping Salah when he's not playing amazing for Spurs?
mm,
I could go from Martinelli, who's got Chelsea down. I could go Zaha, as we mentioned. I wouldn't be taking the hit.
yeah,
I could get rid of Zaha and go to a Rashford. I can't go Almiron because I'm blocked. A Rashford or a Trossard. Probably Trossard I prefer. So
yeah.
lots of things in my head, Wes, but I think I'm going to leave it a bit later in the week.
Yeah, I think that's a good decision. You've made one transfer early. You've got one in the bank to therefore react to stuff if needed. If Haaland's out, you might want to pivot to Kane. Kane's had Champions League. Obviously, might be a little bit tired. Plus, he's got Liverpool at home. But we've seen, Leeds scored two at Anfield. Are Liverpool really going to be able to stop Harry Kane scoring? I don't know. So for you, that might be a nice option. I'm already thinking about that as a potential move as well. Should Haaland be ruled out from, if he's ruled out, is that worth a -4? Haaland to Kane, maybe. But
I've
yeah, for
brought
your
your team
situation, I
up.
think
Oh, sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, I was just gonna say for your situation, I think it is best to wait and then use that transfer. I guess there is an argument for rolling it over again for yourself until game week 16, but then I guess you've got two free transfers for a 1 week punt, which could be beneficial.
Could be fun. Look, if
Yeah,
nothing surfaces and I can't really see the justification of going, I might just wait. But Because, I mean, part of me likes the idea of, look, if I can keep Zaha for West Ham, if he does something amazing, and if he doesn't, I've got one last stab at Forest. I don't mind those fixtures.
Yeah.
Martinelli against Chelsea and Wolves, I can't say I love it, to be honest.
I
Even
think
though
Wolves
he's...
is still Wolves are a bit hit and miss at the minute, aren't they? They're like without a
Yeah.
manager. Leicester. I always, our heads always associate Wolves with being a good defensive side, which they have been this season as well. But they obviously conceded 4 against Leicester recently, didn't they? Um, so yeah, they're not quite the team they were. So yeah, it should be a good one for Martinelli, I guess.
I've your team on the screen. I've put
Yeah,
Wilson in for Tony. Is that it? Or
yeah.
is there anything else on the cards?
Yeah, I basically just got yeah. For me, do I take that -4 for someone? Do I, if Haaland's injured, do I carry him and play Andreas? But then playing Andreas means double Fulham away at City, which is really not ideal. I don't mind one of them away at City and just like either accept the blank or hope for a decent return. But yeah, it's a tricky one. The other thing for me is deciding on my third defender. Cancelo and Trippier are locked in, of course, but then do I start Patterson at home to Leicester? Possibly, but then I'm not sure he'll definitely start. Even Nico Williams doesn't start every game these days. And then I've got Dyer at home to Liverpool. Liverpool are probably going to score, aren't they? So my third defensive slot's weak as well. So yeah, I'm not in the best of spots really. I guess if Haaland pulls through and one of my cheap defenders just pulls off a jammy clean sheet, then it's happy days. But yeah, I'm not. I'm feeling 50-50 about my team this week, to be honest, Sean.
Yeah, you look a wee bit vulnerable. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of like tough ones there. Well, when I say a lot, you're gonna have to play like the likes of a Dyer or someone. You're gonna
Mm,
have to play or Patterson or Nico Williams, Mitrovic there,
yeah.
Andreas there if Haaland isn't fit, and then even like Salah playing against Dyer and Martinelli
Yeah.
because Chelsea. I feel like there's a few tough fixtures there. Um, but
What I
look,
want is, I guess it's pathetic to think like this, but I'm almost just sort of hoping for like just a minor green arrow, just stop the rot of red arrows.
but that's
Um,
fine.
because
Hoping for greens is what it's
that's what I
about. It
want.
doesn't need to be a big fat green. It can be a wee tiny green too. But
Yeah.
Wes, it's been a pleasure. Look, best of luck this weekend. Everyone at home, please like the video, do subscribe, and you can find us both on social. That's my handle down here on Twitter, and Wes's is just there. And I'll see you next week, Wes.
Yeah.
Sorted. See you later. Bye bye.